All right. Well, we're back now. It's the next day. We can see there the last time this one was modified was at 2:23 p.m. on the 9th of the 9th. This is now the 10th of the 9th. Or if you're in America, it's the 9th of the 10th. God, I hate that. I hate that. I'll have to do one on that. Makes no sense, the American way of doing dates. It just makes no sense at all. And I know that the Americans are now going to sort of say, "Oh yeah, but no, when you say, you don't say the 10th of May, you say May 10th," and stuff like that. Anyway, it's which of course I don't agree with anyway. But we're here to. I've just woken up, so I'm a bit groggy, but at least I'm fresh, and I can now have a good look at the script again. Just go through. And I would consider the first run through a draft, and now I want to start editing and get to what I consider to be a closer sort of script. In fact, we've sort of done we've done a draft plus an edit, but it really wasn't a critical edit. So I'm probably not going to be able to talk much while I do this, and because I've really got to think hard. I've got to, actually, what I probably should do is I'll explain what my objectives are in this one. My objective is to make sure that I do actually have objectives for each bit of the conversation. Like I've got very, very specific things that I want to establish. So I need to establish the gender chart in the very, very first one, and I need to establish the trans community in the YouTube videos with the gender chart. So it needs to be a little bit out there, I guess, in the sense that is it insulting? I guess it is, to a degree, but I can sort of get away with it because they're aliens, because they're not from the planet. They're just using whatever tools they've got available. But so I've got very clear objectives to establish that gender has changed. So that's the first thing. Then in the middle section, I've got to then try to summarize as much as I possibly can in through here and make it still fairly funny, but keep a good pace. And look, just scrolling through, that's about the right size for the script. This isn't too bad. And then often when I do my first drafts, they're a lot longer, and I need to chop them right back. And then the final bit really is just to make sure that I leave with something that's pertinent and hopefully out of left field a little bit. But yeah, anyway, that's sort of where I want to go with this thing. Okay, so let's just get into it. Flux is confused looking at a screen and has a male-female chart in his hand, which I don't really need to write, but anyway. Cut to video of transgender person. We established that Blair White was going to be the first of those. Cut back to Flux again. This other thing looks like a female, sounds like a female, I guess. Okay, then we cut back to what's her name? Miley Stewart. Probably spelling the list incorrectly. Cut on screen with chart. And so we put we've established those assets yesterday when I was not wanting to come back to the script. This is the most important part, I've got to say. Like in the whole process, the animation quality matters so little in comparison to getting this right. It's important, but I guess if I was saying what's the order of importance, I think the order of importance is the script, number one. Number two is the actual idea, so it's not that other way around. Number three, I think, would be the actual voice acting, and number four would be the quality of the video, quality of the animation. I think it's so minor in comparison to the others. It's funny how artists tend to get caught up in the visual, and I find this like in advertising and that as well. Like it's communication. It's not a comic or it's not an ad or anything like that. It's actually a communication piece, And communication piece can't be isolated into its individual elements. And usually the most important part of any communication piece is what's actually said. And I know that there are people that will disagree with that, but I found that understanding what you're trying to communicate before you start to do anything creatively just makes it so much tighter and better. And that's sort of what I'm trying to do here. I'm sort of trying to establish those objectives and then move forward. Okay, so cut back to Milo Stewart on screen with chart. Okay, so I need to add another one in as well. So I need him to be getting a bit frustrated there. Then cut to Onision on screen now. And I think Onision is more like, and I don't follow really. I don't sort of watch any of his videos, to be honest. But I know that I think he tries to. From what I can gather, I think he tries to sort of be part of the LGBT community, but in a weird sort of, not a weird way. I can't really put it into words, to be honest. Anyway, he gets a lot of derision because people don't think he's genuine, I guess. I guess that would be the way that he would come across to people. Certainly people who criticise, like the social critics, I guess, would sort of look at him as one of the main targets. It's just quite funny because Milo Stewart is as well. She's a he or she, she. I don't know actually with Milo. Sorry about that, but yeah, Milo is somebody who also very much like Onision attracts a sort of negative side. Blair White is completely the opposite. Really is actually more of a social commentator than anything else anyway. And so she's, yeah, it's very, I don't know, it's interesting to actually hear the different perspectives. So not that I overly do that, but I am, like, particularly while I've been researching this, it's been like, okay. It's just very, very different. It's a different world out there. Certainly something that I'm not really used to, which is really interesting. Like it's funny. Like last night we went around and had a barbecue with some friends, and like the wife's a nurse, and so we were just talking about all this, and yeah, it was very interesting to sort of get the perspective of somebody who actually is dealing with this professionally. So yeah, it was quite interesting. Okay. The gender chart isn't working anymore. Okay. I need to tighten this up. So just know that's to be said in a way that he's then talking. So he's talking to himself. Did it have self? No. All right. So. Okay. So I'll need to just make sure this is really tight. So cut the video. This Earthling looks like a female, sounds like a female, I guess. Cut back to Milo Stewart on screen. Oh, I don't know. Go back to Onision. This gender identifier chart isn't working anymore. Doesn't work is better. Don't need to do much more than just that. This gender identifier chart, it doesn't work. This gender identifier chart doesn't work. not quite right there. Okay, we go to Zor, and then Zor says, gender chart not working. How can a gender chart not work? Using the 2016 version. That's more then it becomes more of an imperative statement at the start and then a question at the end. You're using the 2016 version, aren't you? Is sort of more commanding than the other way that I had it. Okay, let's just go through this again. This is going to take some time, believe it or not. And this bit's really important. I can't stress how important this is. This Earthling looks like a female, sounds like a female, I guess. Oh, I don't know. Okay, this gender identifier chart doesn't work. I can't use things like damned or fucking or anything like that in here. This damn gender, because Flux doesn't mean anything to him. Those sort of swear words. I need something else in here. It's broken. I think I can tighten this statement up. This is once again an important one. Gender chart not working. How can a gender chart not work? You're using the 2016 version, aren't you? I'm very comfortable with doing Zor's statements. Like I don't tend to need to do him much, but really the comic relief is Flux, and he does. It's important that I get him right. I've rushed sometimes doing the talking with a script for Flux, and I really am unhappy with the delivery. Not so much the delivery, but the just the way it comes into the conversation. So zoom back to chart and show 2012 as the date. Oh no, this one's a bit old now. Once again, 2016. I'm trying to make this more conversational. Oops. So, oh no, 2016, no, Commander. Looks as though the use by date on this gender identification chart has expired. I've got to spell these out as well for the lip syncing. Oh no, 2016. Don't need two no's. Oh, 2016. No, Commander. Looks as though the use by date on this gender identification chart has expired. Well, that explains it, Flux. Genders on this planet have completely changed. The last 2 years. Gender is now a continuum of choice rather than a binary switch. Here is a new gender flipbook. Flipbook, gender flipbook. So I'm going to need to draw the flip book in his hand, and I'm going to need to draw the chart in Flux's hand. So I need to do that, which I can do pretty much after this, because I know I'm going to have to do that anyway. Even though I'm not happy with the edit that I'm doing. Probably shouldn't be recording it, to be honest, because it's stopping me from focusing purely on this. So what I'll probably do is I'll probably just go through recording, and then I'll go through it again straight away afterwards and just see. I'll probably pause it. So class of a flip book. Zora explains the changes. Male and female are still there, as you would expect, but there have been a range of other additions. But there has been as you would expect. Subjects. Have been around. Okay, so we show the male and female there. For example, flip book across. Transgender or gender dysphoria is here. These can be hard to spot. They're usually nocturnal and quieter than many of the other categories on this. Many of the other gender categories. Cross. These can be hard to spot. Are usually nocturnal and quieter than many of the other gender categories across the spectrum. And flip. I also want to get a bit of a feel for how long this actually takes. So transgender or gender dysphoria is here. These can be hard to spot. Are usually nocturnal and quieter than many of the other gender categories across the spectrum. So that's about 6 or 7 seconds, I guess, which is about what I want. Transsexuals. I've spelled that incorrectly. I had to check that. I had to look up the spelling actually when I was doing that. So funny, transgender doesn't actually show, other than transgendered is, but not transgender. Interesting. Okay, transsexuals are the overt, loud, and colourful versions of the transgender classification. If you aren't sure when classifying a subject and they act loudly, you can just classify them here. Okay, so like bearing. Now what I want to do in here is I want to show the clip of bearing. Clip of bearing. Just want to sort of get a bit of a funny sort of little thing happening there. And then I've got Zor sort of speaking while that's happening. Yeah, that would be acceptable. Not really human though, more Homo Ursus than Homo sapien. I actually quite like that. Okay, then we flip the book. again. So it's by gender individuals, also classified as gender fluid, are shapeshifters who morph between male and female. That's weak at the end there. I like this. I like what it is. Are shapeshifters who morph between classified as gender fluid. Are shapeshifters who morph between male and female at whim. It's not right as well. Between, either from. I think between is better. Gender individuals, also classified as gender fluid, are shapeshifters who have the ability to morph between male and female at whim. Don't know if I need to say anything else. This, yeah, this is better. Just thinking in terms of how do I put a technical name in there? Very confusing, but this whole subject's become a difficult one. Gender identifology. That'll do. Very confusing, but gender identifology. With rocket science. That'll do. Sort of makes it better. Very confusing, but gender identifology is now on a par with rocket science. Gender identifology, that way I can just split it up, and very confusing, but gender identifology is now on a par with rocket science. Very confusing. That's not right, it's just not working. Very confusing, but gender identifology is now on a par with rocket science. I like where it's going, I just don't like the way it's presented. Shapeshifters have the ability to morph between male and female at whim. Very confusing. Where I know I need to come back and redo this. Very confusing. The scientific discipline of gender identification, gender identiphology, is now on a par with advanced rocket science. Actually, that's not too bad. An androgyne is the unfortunate result of two people of different genders caught in a matter transfer accident. Nasty. Cisgender has been added so that Earthlings who are still male or female... Okay, this is weak. Cisgender is a category that can be applied to traditional males or female. Males or females. Display. I need to sort of do a bit more here because I want people to read the t-shirts on the screen. Cisgender is a category that can be applied to what was traditionally males or females, but who display. That'll do. Need to flesh this out a little bit. Cisgender is a category that can be applied to what was traditionally males or females, but who, Category applied to cisgender is somewhat of a catch-all category applied to social justice warriors who still identify with their birth gender. Simply been. Some catch-all category applied to social justice warriors who still identify with their birth gender. Traditionally, they would have simply been male or female, but those terms are not inclusive enough for the LGBT community. They're not. Go. The trick to accurate identification lies in reading what is on their t-shirts. So cisgender is somewhat of a catch-all category applied to social justice warriors who still identify with their birth gender. Traditionally, they would have simply been male or female, but those terms are not inclusive enough for the LGBT community. The trick to accurate identification lies in reading what is on their t-shirts. That's good enough. That's pretty good, actually. And what I do like about this is exactly what what it means is identify with their birth gender. Yeah, I'm really like this. I really like this because from what I can gather, people don't really. This one is pretty much unknown. Now, gender non-conforming are human cross-dressers. I don't need to do much more than that because it gives me a nice little flick across to that one, and it's enough to see a really big blokey bloke inside the female stuff. That's enough for that joke to work. Gender questioning is usually reserved for art students, a largish and vocal subcategory. That's fine as well. Transitioning is the process or morphing slowly from one of the traditional genders to the other, like grubs in a cocoon turning into moths. That's not bad as well. It's all there, Flux, in the book. It's all there. It's all there. There we go. Just it's funny when you start talking, and it's one thing I've got to start doing as well when I'm recording. I've got to get into the habit of just going with the flow. Like if I feel that it's too wooden, what I've written, I am now starting to sort of change what I'm recording. So back to Flux using the new gender flip book. Commander, I think this gender book is out of date as well. It doesn't have one for robots. I don't like the way I always start this. Whenever I say that, I think, oh, that's not what I want. I don't want him questioning. I want him angry. Not a question. This gender book is broken as well. Look, see? It doesn't have a gender for robots. Doesn't have a gender for robots. Think laterally, Flux. Think laterally. You fall under the classification of industrial waste. I really quite like this. I keep on going back to this. It's Flotsam Jetsam. Flotsam and Jetsam, I'm really concerned that people just don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because like it's an old term, like it's a term that was in use, a long time ago and not so much anymore. So I just don't think that people will actually know what that is. Let's just take that out, and that's pretty insulting. Flux. Oh, okay. So that's. I like the back. I'm not really all that comfortable with the top. I'm just going to stop the recording and I'll just pause it. I'm just going to go back through it again. This has taken longer to do this edit than it did to write it in the first place, just looking at the timing that this has taken. Alright, so I've gone through it again actually, and it's actually is much easier to do this without talking because you need to be right into it and talking out aloud as to what's going on. So this is the script as it currently stands. I'm probably going to let it go for one more edit because I'm really happy with it, but I was happy with the last one, to be honest. And I was happy with the one before that. So Flux is confused, looking at a screen, and has a basic gender identification chart in his hand. Cut to video of Blair White. Chart is next to the screen. Cut back to Flux again. This Earthling looks female. Sounds female, I guess. Cut and click to Milo Stewart. I want to have a little click with a button to switch on screen with chart. I don't know. Cut to Onision on screen. This gender identification chart doesn't work. Cut to Flux. So, basically, I'm sort of got to put these in because I've got to know which ones to lip sync. And so I've got to lip sync this little portion. I'm going to do this one as well, actually. Actually, do I need to do that? Yeah, I better cut that there. So sounds female, I guess, would be... So it's this one and this one would need to be lip synced. I have to sort of consider what I'm doing. I just don't want to be doing more than what I need to do. Although it doesn't really matter much. It's only one sentence. Okay, the gender identification chart doesn't work. Cut to Flux. It's broken. I can't classify these Earthlings using this. I wanted to actually establish that that's what his job is. He's classifying what the Earthlings are doing. And that's what really the whole purpose of the series is. But I needed to actually specify that. Zoom to Commander Zor. Gender chart not working. How can a gender chart not work? You're using the 2016 version, aren't you, Flux? Zoom back to chart, shoot 2012 as a date. Now I've got copyright 2012. I'm going to have used by 2012, I think. Or best before. I'll just write that in there. Best before. 2012. There we go. 2016. No, Commander. Looks as though the use by date on this chart has expired back in 2012. Well, that explains it, Flux. Genders on this planet have completely changed in the last 2 years. Gender is now a continuum of choice rather than a binary switch. A sliding scale, string theory taken to an illogical extreme. Here, Flux. This is the new 2016 Gender Identification Flipbook. So Zor has Flipbook in hand. I've now named this Gender Identification Bestiary. A Gender Identification Bestiary. Now, I wanted to make sure I didn't put that in because I don't know how to pronounce it for the transmodern world. I looked up transmodern. It does exist. I've made up the term, but it does actually exist, and it'll do. It doesn't really matter much. Yeah, and I put this in as sliding scale string theory taken to an illogical extreme. I really like that idea. I like that thought of like a continuum, but with string theory. String theory is sort of like, I think it's, well, I don't know much about it, but I think it's more of the like really complex connections through astrophysics or something like that. Anyway, thought that would be a funny little thing to put in there. Okay, close-up of flipbook. Zora explains the changes. Male and female are still there, as you would expect, for Earthlings existing in blind ignorance of their new gender choices, but there are around 50 other additions. So I wanted to, once again, just establish who the male and female are not the politically savvy. They're not for the politically savvy, I guess. For example, flipbook across. Transgender or gender dysphoria is here. These can be hard to spot, are usually nocturnal and quieter than many of the other gender categories across the spectrum. Transsexuals are the overt, loud and colourful versions of the transgender classification. Flux. If a subject is acting loudly or outrageously, it is generally safe to classify them to this category. Like bearing? Yeah, that would be acceptable. Not really human though, more Homo ursus than Homo sapien. Bigender individuals, also classified as gender fluid, are shapeshifters who have the ability to morph between male and female at whim. A dangerous situation brought about when mutated estrogen and testosterone compete within the same organism. An androgen is the unfortunate result of two people of different genders caught in a matter transfer accident. Nasty, really nasty. Cisgender is somewhat of a catch-all category applied to social justice warriors who still identify with their birth gender. Traditionally, they would have simply been male or female, but those terms are not inclusive enough for the LGBT community. The trick to accurate identification lies in reading what is on their t-shirts. Actually, the trick should be highlighted. That's where I want the inflection. So I'm just going to put an underline. Gender non-conforming are human cross-dressers. Gender questioning is usually reserved for art students, a largish and vocal subcategory. Transitioning are individuals undergoing the slow process of morphing from one of the traditional genders to the other, like grubs in a cocoon turning into moths. A lot of unwanted body hair and lumps where they shouldn't be. It's all there, Flux, in the book, it's all there. So you can see I've sort of added in just little bits all the way through to try to get a chuckle, I guess, at those points. Yeah, and this is what I do need to sort of not do it everywhere, but just every so often, just have just little statements like the string theory, the mutated estrogen and testosterone. I better make sure I pronounce that correctly. Is it oestrogen or estrogen? I'm going to have to look that up. Back to Flux using the new gender flip book. This gender book is broken as well. Look, see, what about me? It doesn't have a gender for robots. It's at the back, Flux. You fall under the classification of industrial waste. Oh, I've cleaned this up. I had think laterally and all sorts of stuff in there, but I don't need it. This is more. I want it to be more specific. So anyway, I'm happy with that. I'm really happy with this now. Like it's much tighter, but I don't trust myself. I don't trust my objectivity with this. I do visually, like with the visual stuff, I generally can tell whether it's going to work or not. But with this, I really don't know. And so that's a bit of a tricky thing. But we now have a few other things that I can do. And I'm going to not leave it for another whole day. I'm probably going to just do a little bit more work, then come back and reread it again. As I say, I'm very, very close to liking this a lot. I'm just going to change that to looks _ I'll just do that. All right, so that's the scripting done. Yeah, it took a fairly long time. That's 45 minutes, and we're still sort of basically that was it's so important. I can't stress how important this phase actually is. Getting this right is the one thing that I haven't been spending enough time on, and it's everything. This is by far the most important part of everything. Anyway, thanks for watching. Join us next time. In the next one, I'm just going to build some more of the assets. Now that I've sort of identified a few more assets that I can actually build, I'm going to get the Moho file ready for animation, and so I can then start to do the lip syncing once I do the voice recording. So next step will be to do those assets. Step after that will be another edit of the script, and probably just go straight into voice acting at that point. So that's what's coming up.